race. We're proud and strong, so stand up tall. Let's get together, bring peace to the world. Let's all get together, bring peace to the world. Let's all get together, bring peace to the world. Every boy and girl. Let's all get together, bring peace to the world. There's a train of love beginning right here. So jump onto it and I have no fear. It's yours, it's mine. We got to call. Let's all get together, bring peace to the world. Let's all get together, bring peace to the world. Let's all get together, bring peace to the world. Every boy and girl. Let's all get together, bring peace to the world. Shelter the homeless, open your door. Feed the hungry, give to the poor. Offer your heart, don't think small. Let's all get together, bring peace. Oh, let's all get together, bring peace to the world. Let's all get together, bring peace to the world. Every boy and girl. Let's all get together, bring peace to the world. Let's all get together, bring peace. I tell you, let's all together, bring peace. Oh, every man, every boy. Let's all. Let's all. Let's all.
Good morning. Welcome to Unity of Charlotte. My name is Marty Bacher. It's my privilege and pleasure to serve as the spiritual leader of this community. We want to welcome you this morning. We want to welcome those joining us on Access 21 and on YouTube and all the ways that we get our message out there. It's a wonderful thing. If you're not familiar with us, we're a spiritual community that promotes a way of living based upon universal principles and practices. We call it unity. And so we believe that we can do the work on our own. We can become enlightened on our own. But we kind of think that community makes it happen. So we come together each Sunday to be reminded of who we are, to celebrate our living, to be in compassionate care for each other, and we go through those difficult times. So we're just delighted you're here. If you're joining us for the first time, we want to make sure you get a welcome packet and make yourselves at home. We're kind of an odd group. Let's just put it out on the table. But once you get to know us, you're going to love us. So we're just glad you're here, and we want you to feel comfortable. Hope that something that happens today inspires you, uplifts your heart and your mind as we move forward on our inner journey. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Today we have our potluck. And so after the service, we invite you to join us for food and celebration. We're going to do this a little differently today because we're going to do two things at once. So we're also launching our service groups. So those are small groups hosting an extraordinary experience of community through being together in small groups on Sunday mornings. And so we're taking our first step today. We'll have a training. So those who want to join us in that, we invite you to grab your food and come on into the Ennis room, and we'll eat and train in there. Those that just want to hang out, you can do that in here. Always we need help setting up and breaking down. We're grateful for everybody's support. If you didn't bring food, don't worry. I think we're going to be okay. Because where there two or more are gathered, there will be an abundance of food. In unity, at least. So don't even get me started on the service groups thing, because I'm excited about it already. But it is a different way of approaching it. And what we're looking at in terms of how we're developing our community is that the old model of singleness and martyrdom we're going to let go of and move into a new model that everything that happens in teams and in support and community. And so, yay, we're moving forward. Also, yay, I know, right? It's worth clapping. Want to make you aware that this Saturday we're having our community cleanup day. So, we have a party. And so we've cleaned and weeded and mulched and painted and sewed and done all kinds of amazing things. So this Saturday we'll be like putting the finishing touches on the place because we got company coming. On Friday the 18th, we have a rededication ceremony where we yay, I know. In some ways I look at this as our grand opening. We've been kind of figuring out how we function and what we're doing. And so this is kind of like our announcement to the world that Unity of Charlotte is alive, well, thriving, and you ought to come on down.
That's all right.
It's all right with me. Yes. So that's coming up. The end of the month, we're going to have a very special speaker. I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a moment. Also want to make you aware that In Accord is here singing with us today. Cindy and Paul, who we know and love, we're just grateful. They strive to sing music that matters. And they add a little humor in there, harmony and heart, so what's not to love, right? What's not to love? So, let us begin our inward journey. As we move into prayer, I do have a special guest to lead us in prayer today. See, the thing that I do best, maybe the only thing I do well, is I attract really good people. So I've had this amazing prayer partner for about 7 years now who keeps me grounded when I need to be grounded and lifts me up when I need to be lifted. Loves me unconditionally. She has an amazing heart, an amazing spirit. So through whatever magic or woo-woo or voodoo, I got her to move to Charlotte to be a part of this community. So I'm going to invite Reverend Sally Robbins, who you may recognize from Science of Mind Guides, to give us our opening prayer today.
Thank you, Marty. Now I have to live up to that. Oh. So let's go within. Let's take a deep breath inward and let it out. Take another cleansing breath in and let it out. And with that outward breath, we let go of any baggage we might have brought into this room today. Any worry, concern, resentment, even anger. We just set it aside. To be in this holy instant, this perfect moment, the only moment there is, the now. For in this moment we recognize that there is one God, one power, one being that lives, moves, and has its being through us, as us. The same power that holds the planets in alignment, the same power that moves the tides in and out, the same power that breathes each and every one of our hearts. We call that inner guide, God, Spirit, whatever name we choose to give it. We know that it is the one. And so we take this journey of oneness this morning, a time to recognize that there is only one person in this room, that we are all indeed one. I recognize the divinity in the person sitting next to me, across from me, in front of me. For that is the true meaning of community, knowing the divinity within each and every person in this room, in this community. Unity of Charlotte is such a light that draws to it those who are weary, those who are saying there's got to be a better way. For in this moment we recognize that the power indwelling, even if I don't have the answer to the challenge that I am facing, something within me does. Even if I'm facing a health challenge in the moment and I don't know what to do, something within me does. And so I bless that inner wisdom. I bless that each and every one of us are rising to a place in consciousness that knows that all is indeed unfolding perfectly in our lives. I bless our time together this morning. I bless the opportunity to know the truth that I am one with all there is, right in this moment. Nothing imperfect, nothing broken. I am that which I am. And together we say, and so it is.
This morning, our inspiration comes from Khalil Gibran. I've often said if I got stranded on a stranded island and only got to have 3 books, this would be one of them. And this is on giving. So I invite you to close your eyes, open your heart, and just allow these words to speak to you. Then said a rich man, "Speak to us of giving." And he answered, "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. For what are your possessions but things you keep, and guard for fear you may need them tomorrow? And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the overprudent dog burying bones in the trackless sand as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city? And what is fear of need but need itself? Is not dread of thirst when your well is full, the thirst that is unquenchable? There are those who give little of the much which they have, and they give it for recognition, and their hidden desire makes their gifts unwholesome. And there are those who have little and give it all. These are the believers in life and the bounty of life, and their coffer is never empty. There are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. And there are those who give with pain, and that pain is their baptism. And there are those who give and know not pain in giving, nor do they seek joy, nor give with mindfulness of virtue. They give as in yonder valley the myrtle breathes its fragrance into space. Through the hands of such as these God speaks, and from behind their eyes he smiles upon the earth. It is well to give when asked, but it is better to give unasked, through understanding. And to the open-handed, the search for one who shall receive is joy greater than giving. And is there aught you would withhold? All you shall have shall someday be given. Therefore give now, that the season of giving may be yours and not your inheritors. You often say, I would give, but only to the deserving. The trees in your orchard say not so, nor the flocks in your pasture. They give that they may live, for to withhold is to perish. Surely he who is worthy to receive his days and his nights is worthy of all else from you. And he who has deserved to drink from the ocean of life deserves to fill his cup from your living stream. And what desert greater shall there be than that which lies in the courage and the confidence, nay, the charity of receiving? And who are you that men should rend their bosom and unveil their pride, that you may see their worth naked and their pride unabashed? See first that you yourself deserve to be a giver and an instrument of giving. For in truth it is life that gives unto life, while you, who deem yourself a giver, are but a witness. And you receivers, and you are all receivers, assume no weight of gratitude, lest you lay a yoke upon yourself and upon him who gives. Rather rise together with the giver on his gifts as on wings. For to be over-mindful of your debt is to doubt his generosity, who has the free-hearted earth for mother and God for Father. As we move into this month of prosperous living, let us remember that indeed it is only the divine that gives, and we are but participants in the divine creative forces. Let us open our hearts and our minds to be gracious givers and generous receivers of the divine bounty. Let us remember that God is our source in all things, our refuge, our strength. We are sustained and enlivened and prospered when we remember our oneness with the One. For all of these blessings I give thanks, as together we say, and so it is. Amen. And so I'd like to invite you to stand with me as we affirm our truth. If you're not sure what your truth is, you'll find it on the screens behind you. And then you can remain standing as we move into our congregational song. Today, I choose to live abundantly. I recognize God as my true source. I participate fully in the flow of life. I joyously give and graciously receive. Today, I choose to live abundantly.
share today, sweet Spirit? How can I share today, oh Lord? Speak in ways that I may understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. How can I serve today, sweet Spirit? How can I serve today, oh Lord? Speak in ways that I may understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go.
Good morning. You know, I honestly cannot come in the sanctuary without thinking about Jake Green, who for years I sang with here. You know, as much as we know about what happens after this life, I guess it's come from people who have experienced that life after death experience. But I think Jake has gotten something else going, because he emailed me like 3 days before he passed, and he said, Paul, I wanted to let you know that beautiful alien women have landed on this planet, and they're gathering up all of the good-looking older men to take back to their planet. He said, by the way, Paul, you're personally in no danger. But he said, I just wanted to write and tell you goodbye. Anyway, this song is the title track from our CD that we released in September called Along the Road of Faith.
Shine your light that I might see the broken roads that are in front of me, up every hill and down each valley, along the road of faith.
Be a lamp unto my feet, so I'll know what's shallow, what is steep. Point out the perils, Lord, that I might meet along the road of faith. God, illuminate the path I take. Help me learn from all of my mistakes. Give me light for every step I take along the road of faith. My God, I know, my God will show, my God, I know, keep me safe no matter what, where I go. Now, whatever dangers I might face, you are my God, be by my side. You are my God, you will I praise. Your endless love from high above, fill me with your amazing grace. Along the road of faith.
Where there's darkness, let there now be light. Let me know my needs will be supplied. Oh God, let your radiance shine bright along the road of faith.
God, illuminate the
Path I take, help me learn from all of my mistakes. Give me light for every step I take along the road of faith.
My God, I know, my God will show, my God, I know, keep me safe no matter what, where I go, not whatever dangers I might face. You are my God, be by my side. You are my God, you will I praise your endless love from high above. Fill me with your amazing grace along the road of faith. With each new step I won't forget that it is you who is my King. I'm not alone, you're never gone. Your praise forever will I sing, and come what may, whatever you say to you and only you I pray. Show me the way, along the way, the path you choose will I obey. Along the road of faith. On the road of faith.
Life is good. So I have this whole talk ready. But I've decided let's just skip the talk. Get your checkbooks out. I mean, let's not pretend like this is about spiritual principles and how to live a well-lived life or how faith practices itself in form. It's all about me getting your money and a whole lot of it. So I'm sure there's not anything else that I could say to change your mind. So let's just tithe. Right? Don't you ever feel like that? Uh-oh, it's the law of tithing. So let's all just together say tithing.
Tithing.
Everybody still living?
Yeah.
Everybody still breathing? Everybody okay? Okay, good. So this is always such a fun topic, except when it's not. Here's what I've discovered. Now Sally's been in ministry just about as long as I have, and I don't know if you've ever encountered this, but some people have issues around money. Have you ever encountered that in your ministry? Yeah. So I being one of them. Because I grew up with an understanding that money was not something you ever talked about. And my role models for this non-conversation that was going to happen was a dad who was a complete businessman and a mom who was a complete giver. I might say enabler, but that wouldn't sound kind. It's so close to Mother's Day. But, you know, if you need to borrow $5 for gas, back in the day when you could buy $5 worth of gas, Dad would say, great. Now, what kind of terms would you like on this loan? And what, you know. He did his businessman thing. Mom, on the other hand, was like, oh, here, just take my car. I just filled it up. And while you're at it, here's $20 so you can have a good time. Guess who we went to? Both of them were trying to teach us something. But because we didn't have open, honest, above-board conversations, it was never really clear what they were trying to teach. So everybody gets to have their own story about how life shows up. But I did hear about a thing, because, you know, I grew up in a traditional church, and tithing felt less than joyous as I learned it. Tithing felt like something I was obligated to do if I was ever going to grace the steps of the kingdom of heaven, right? Let alone get in. So there was a number of issues there about, you know, entry, but just that piece, right? So some of us carry our non-working philosophies further into life, thinking that if we do it harder, longer, faster, it'll work now. You ever done that? Well, that didn't work. What if I just said it louder? You ever had that conversation with a spousal unit? Oh, you didn't hear me? Let me just say it this much louder. or a little slower, which always has such a wonderful result. Right? So sometimes we think, well, maybe I should do something different. So it was fun. It was like looking at what should we do this month. It's always, get back to the basics. And there's no one better in the world at teaching prosperity than our own Edwene Gaines. Just most of you know who she is. If you don't, you need to. It's just, again, in that library of books you need to have. Hers is one of them. I'd also listen to her on tape, which is always fun. But she talks about this journey, and she's saying, if we want to live a prosperous life, then we would do well to learn these 4 principles and, here's the catch, practice them. Because sometimes I like to learn a principle and then just do what I was doing before. But it turns out you have to learn and practice the principle. So the 4 principles, she says, in this idea of living a prosperous life are the law of tithing, the law of goal setting, the law of divine purpose, and the law of something, which is escaping me, but it'll be back any moment. So it'll be here by the 3rd week. I know that. So here's the fundamental truth we should understand as metaphysicians, as people working to understand spiritual principle and bring them into our experience. You can do whatever the heck you want. Right? Does the universe care? No. But does the universe make exceptions? No. Because we live in a universe of spiritual law. We live in a universe of order. And so the great shift for me out of changing my mindset about the nature of the divine was that it was no longer about a guy watching, judging my life, rewarding on a good day, punishing on a bad, right? That's the kind of the concept of God that I grew up with. Was there was this judgmental father who was making all these decisions about my life. And if I could find good grace, hopefully I would have a life joyous and freeing and wonderful. I questioned some of it and eventually took a different path, which I was absolutely certain would not include church. Absolutely certain. Not going to do church. Doesn't work for me. Found myself doing church, but I found myself engaged in a spiritual community not unlike this one, where we learned that this universe is a universe that operates according to spiritual law. And just as the physical laws determine reality for us, independent of personality, so too do the spiritual laws. And I began to understand and realize that I was a co-creative being with the divine creator. Of myself I do nothing, said the master. We don't create anything. It's a misnomer to say that. There's a creative intelligence that creates all things. But we are co-creative when we learn, well, we're always co-creative, but we get to be conscious co-creators when we start to learn the nature of how the laws work and how to work with them to produce the results in our life that reflect what we want. Does that make sense? That when we understand this is how it is, gravity is a wonderful thing. I think if you're going to live on Earth, gravity is a great thing. My body's questioning, but overall, it's generally a good thing. The older I get, I'm kind of like, I could do it a little less gravity, but nonetheless, I like that I know when I jump out of bed in the morning, my feet are going to land on the ground and I'm off and running, right? I count on that. It's not because it likes me so darn much, right? It's just the law. When we understand spiritual laws, which I believe all of the masters through the ages were trying to teach us in their own unique way, in their own lexicon, in their own paradigm of the time, were trying to explain to us their spiritual laws. When I came back and started to study Jesus from this point of view, I was like, oh, there's a whole new chapter. There's a whole new understanding. There's a whole new level of awareness that says if you will work with the divine, you will experience something different. And one of those principles says that what we believe becomes our experience. What we believe to be true becomes our experience. Not what we think is true will become our experience. Not what we say was true will become our experience. What we believe. And sometimes we have a difference between what we say and what we believe. We say this is a spiritual universe. And yet we act in ways that we have separation. God is love everywhere present all the time except for that dude. Or for this dude, right? So heal thou my unbelief is a wonderful message when Jesus spoke to one of the people and he said, yes, I believe, but heal thou my unbelief. There's still that part of me that wants to believe that this is separate. So for some people, you don't have to raise your hand, there is that belief that there's my spiritual life and then there's my money. Right? Some of you can even, if you're good at this, you can pull out passages from the Bible to support your fallacy. I mean, your mistaken belief. Right? That we can either serve God or mammon, they say, right? When we understand that if we serve the divine, the rest takes care of itself. Jesus said, if you will seek the spiritual dimension, then all these things shall be added unto you. So we're taught that we should worship, be in communion with the divine. Right? And that if we are to worship at the outer level, that's where problems start. So I always say living an abundant life is really about living in the divine flow, joyously giving, graciously receiving, being in the flow, letting go of the idea that any of it's ours. Right? They say you can't take it with you. It's an interesting thing that we spend so much of our life accumulating and adding and doing all this stuff, and then we come to the end of our life. We're like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Or we say, I'm not going to deal with it. I'll let my kids deal with it. They're like, why did you have all this stuff? Right? So ultimately, we don't take any of it with us. Ultimately, it's just ours. So let's all say this together again. Tithe. Everybody's still breathing. Okay. So I want to talk to you for a moment about the spiritual practice of tithing. It is the practice of recognizing God or the divine, whatever word you're most comfortable with, as our source. That everything comes from the source and comes through avenues, which are indeed unlimited. Right? So when we start the spiritual practice of tithing, we say, I'm going to give the first fruits of my labor as a conscious exercise back to where I am spiritually fed as a recognition of the divine as my source. Now, notice that I did not say this church. I can't do that. I've never been able to do that. However, I hope you're spiritually fed here. That's my job, right? But when we start to recognize as a spiritual practice, like how many of you are good at meditating if you've never meditated? Right? At some point you got to sit down, sit on the cushion, as they say, right? And you practice. How many of us are good at anything unless we practice? So tithing, when properly understood, becomes a spiritual exercise of our money management. Now, here's the first lesson. And I quote Marianne Williamson because she's brilliant. She said, the truth will set you free. But first it will piss you off. I'm quoting now. I'm not saying, I'm quoting. Have you noticed that? You're like, yeah, I want to be a tither. I just don't want to go through the discomfort of writing the actual check. right? Because what if? So listen to what happens in our mind. Well, if I spend that, I will have less, and I may not eat. I may not feed my children. I may end up destitute and on the street. Right? That's the fearful voice, because we have been taught that if we give something away, we don't have it anymore. But that would not understand the nature of the universe we live in. So I want you to practice a really simple experiment. We'll get to money later, but let's try this one. Look at somebody near you and smile at them. Okay, so who's without a smile right now? Like, well, I'll never get that smile back. That was a complete waste of time. What happened? People smiled back at you, and in fact, we had more smiles. How does that work? That's just crazy talk now. Right? Try giving love away. What happens? More love comes back to you. Well, that's good, but I'm practical. Great. You use whatever excuse you want, but you still get the same result. Right? So what if, I'm a much kinder person, Sally's a much kinder person, but we know some ministers that are tough. And I have a friend who shall rename nameless, but she would work with her spiritual leaders in the group, and she'd say, "Are you tithing?" There was no let's lead up to it. Like, "Are you tithing?" "Well, no." She's like, "I know, I watch your records, but..." Or if you are, you're in serious trouble. She says, "So just let me ask you this. Why would I trust you with my health? Why would I trust you with my well-being if you don't trust God with your money?" Right? It's kind of harsh, but it's kind of like, that's what it comes down to. And I'm not saying you have to tithe. It's a personal decision. I'm just saying that when we get it, at some point we come up against the thing that says, I've got to move through my fear. It worked for Edwene Gaines. It worked for Mary Morrissey. It works for Reverend Sally. It works for all of these wonderful people. But what about me? You don't understand my situation. I'm on a fixed income. I always want to say, who fixed it? Right? I hope I get every one of them. This may be my last Sunday, so I'm just going to put it out there. Right? I get it, because at some point we have to start believing more in the unknown than in the known. That's the walk of faith. That's the walk of truth. We have to believe that there's a greater something at work through us, and that as we use this working with our money as a spiritual exercise to open our hearts and our minds to our greater good, then amazing things happen. I was privileged to study with a wonderful, amazing woman by the name of Dr. Peggy Bassett. And Dr. Peggy went through some stuff in her life. Abused by a husband, raised some kids. She just had a tough thing, but she found a thing called metaphysics. She found a thing called science of mind. And she walked into the church, and she started to really kind of get it, and she was like, hey, things are starting to change. And then they had the tithe Sunday. And she was like, my parents tithe themselves broke. I'm not, right? Because our excuses are always better than anybody else's, right? Let's just be honest, right? And then she was like, okay, so if all of these people are doing this, then I will listen to those wonderful words that say, prove me now forthwith. You see, in the Bible, in Malachi, it says, and this is a new version, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this. Test me, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. You see, if you will bring your good to the storehouse, it's true with money, it's true with love, it's true with service, it's true with everything good. If you put God first, if you put the divine first, if you recognize the right relationship, then prove me that I will open a storehouse. I will open the windows of heaven, as it were. So Peggy, like so many of us, said, well, I guess in that case, I'm going to have to try this. Edwene talks about, I'm giving you 6 months, God. Don't you love that? God's like, whew, thanks, right? I'm going to write that on my calendar, right? But that's what she said. Peggy, the same thing. And then she's all of a sudden started to notice, wow, oddly enough, doesn't make any sense, but instead of having less money at the end of the month, I have more. New avenues began to open up. New things began to happen. So she's at one point got to this, she's like, well, you know what? I'm going to set a new goal. And my goal is that in 10 years, my tithe will be larger than my current income. She failed. She did it in 9.
Wow.
Right? Tom Costa, another friend of ours, got into this, and Edwene talks about this experience, but he's like, so I just decided I'm going to start tithing on the money I want to have, the income I want to make. As he popped her down in his new Bentley or whatever it was, And, okay, right? I'm going to pay attention because it is a practice. It is a practice of placing our faith in the divine. Being of service is a practice of giving ourselves away with an expectation of greater good returning to us. You see, we are not, hear me, we are not asking for martyrdom. We are not asking for you to live a limited life. Jesus said to us, I have come that you might live life more abundantly. Pretty clear. Like, I'm going to come and then you can be, right? I mean, some of the teachings have gotten a little confused, but if you listen, we are in an abundant universe. We are in an unlimited field that is only limited by our limiting beliefs. So our work is not to try and change the universe, but rather to understand and release those limiting beliefs that we hold to be true. So, now you can get out your checkbooks. I'm kidding. Jeez, I know. This place sometimes. Right? Does this make sense? That what we give comes back to us. It's a universal law. What you put out comes back. You put out love, you get love. You put out hatred, it comes back. You put out negativity, you surround yourself with negativity. Right? It's us working with immutable laws. So as we're moving, so I think it's brilliant that we just like let's just have this conversation first, right? Understand that if we will participate in this flow, you may be uncomfortable at first. That's where we get to understand what our limiting beliefs are, right? I would, but, and I'm going to just make one request of you right now. After today's service, no one's allowed to come up to me and say, I would, but. It's a choice between you and yourself, right? I don't want to hear, I've got some better ones. So, if you want to trade excuses, I've got some brilliant ones. They're really good. I mean, they're spiritual ones. So, it's between you and the universe. That's the good news. So we practice the law of giving and receiving. We practice the law of circulation. I'm going to have you do one more experiment. We're not getting money yet. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to only breathe in for the next 90 seconds. Ready? Right? Well, let's challenge. Let's go 3 minutes. Only breathe in for 3 minutes. Okay, new experiment. Let's just breathe out for the next 3 minutes. Right? Breathing, I've discovered, works best if we practice it on a regular and systematic basis. In and out. Flow, abundance, the divine flow, is best when we practice it on a regular and consistent basis. So can you see how tithing becomes a spiritual practice, an exercise in faith around our money? That's kind of fun, isn't it? Okay, so I'm not going to give the rest of the talk that I was planning to give because I think we want to get to lunch here. Come back next week. There's still good stuff. Right? So this is fun. Everybody okay? Everybody breathing, check your pulse. Breathing shallow, take a deep breath. It's an experiment. I like that idea of giving yourself a time. Prove me now, says the Lord, right? Prove it. My first teacher said to me, hey, Marty, understand this stuff doesn't work if it doesn't work in the marketplace, right? This is not a teaching about let's all sit in a circle once in a while and talk about spiritual things. This is a teaching about take what you learn and live it in every aspect of your life. So, my invitation is consider giving more generously with the full understanding that God is your source and that you will be your life will be blessed and multiplied in the giving. Fair? Try it. So I'd like to end there. One last thing, and then and I want you to hear this. The biggest block that I have encountered, I think in myself and many others, is not their unwillingness to give, but rather in their unwillingness to receive. True? So expand your capacity to receive. I have a friend, I won't name her, but she is wearing purple and she's here today, who I recently said, just allow yourself to be supported. We got to help her move in. Thrilled to do it. Just accept that the universe is supporting you. Thank you for letting me call you out there. Right? I do it too. That's why we're good for each other. Right? Is allow the universe to support you. So expand not only your capacity to give, but also to receive. And that starts with when people say nice things to you, there's a 2-word answer. Thank you. Complete sentence. Practice there. People want to take you to lunch? Let them. You don't have to climb over the table to get the thing away from them, right? Just let them. Say thank you. And you don't even have to tithe on the free lunch. It's an added benefit. It's good. All right. You willing to practice being more open, more receptive, breathing in, breathing out, giving and receiving, enjoying the flow of life? Are you willing to practice that?
Yes.
And I'm done. Let us come together in prayer. Are you guys going to come up with me, or are you going to sing from there? They're singing from there, so let us pray. As we simply join together in this moment of recognition, as we celebrate this idea that we are living, moving, and have our very being in a divine presence that is life itself. And that this life presence, this thing we call God, expresses in, through, and as all creation, and therefore expresses in, through, and as each one of us here, and in fact, in each person everywhere. As we open our mind and our heart to that awareness, we simply feel the shift when we surrender and open up fully to the wholeness, to the fullness, to the joy, to the peace, to the abundance that is God. We realize that we are each living in a state of grace, each living in a state of awareness. And as we open more and more to this spiritual dimension, as we learn to live from that state, then we too watch how all things are added unto us. When we practice divine love, we experience more loving relationships. When we practice abundance, we experience more and greater good. When we experience wholeness, we enjoy greater health and vitality. It is written that it is the Father's, it is this powers, it is this presence, good pleasure to give us the kingdom, to give it to us. And so let it be our good pleasure to receive this kingdom that has been so freely given. As I speak this word of truth today, I know that we are healed and blessed, that we are up-leveled, that we are moving into that divine state of consciousness that knows spirit, knows God, knows love, knows joy. And as we walk through the world, we do so with a confidence and a clarity and a peace that passes human understanding. We know we are blessed. And so we choose to bless this spiritual community, this divine idea known as Unity of Charlotte that is perfectly unfolding, is abundantly supplied. We extend our blessing to our brothers and sisters around the planet. We're holding that high vision for a planet at peace, a world that works for all. And as always, we bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of all faiths, for we celebrate the many pathways to the divine. We know that where two or more are gathered, the presence of the I Am is there. How good it is to know this truth. And how much better it is to live from this truth. And so I give thanks, for I know that through the power of the living Christ, as I speak this word, it is established. And so it goes forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless. In joy and gratitude, then I simply let go. I allow it to be so, as together we say, and so it is. Amen.
So I love it when the song that we're singing matches with what the minister just said, and we didn't plan it in advance. Many years ago when I was going through a Mary Morrissey prosperity class right here in this very church, she was talking about this frequency, to go on that frequency where you would be, more one and be with more of your higher self. And so one day, I don't know, I was riding along the road, and it just came to me that for me, that was a faith frequency. So I told that to Paul one day, and then, I don't know, a year or two later, he wrote a song about it.
Ironically called Living on the Faith Frequency. Right?
That's right. So here we go.
I'm living my life on the faith frequency. Oh, when my hopes are dim and my dreams appear to die, I know I make matters worse if I start asking why. So I ask my Lord for what I want and I leave it alone. And that's my go-to strategy, the one thing I can lean on. When I live in faith, angels watch all over me. When I'm on a dark road, that's just what I believe. When I live by that truth, I can't hear worries call. And there'll be no stopping me, you see, God'll catch me if I fall. Well, I'm living my life on the faith frequency, choosing to believe in a power that I can't see, putting my trust in advance of what's to be. I'm living my life on the faith frequency. Storms of life keep raging on no matter what I do. Fresh trials popping up each day to test my faith anew. But I am anchored to a lifeline in a higher place, where all my prayers are answered in God's good grace. I will stand tall when my pain I can't disguise. With confidence I move ahead, I know God will provide. Though life is full of pain and uncertainty, that means new doors are opening on the faith frequency. I'm living my life on the faith frequency. I'm choosing to believe in a power that I can't see. Putting my trust in advance of what's to be. I'm living my life on the faith frequency. I'm living my life on the faith frequency. I'm choosing to believe in a power that I can't see. Putting my trust in advance of what's to be. I'm living my life on the faith frequency. I'm living my life on the faith frequency. I'm choosing to believe in a power that I can't see. Putting my trust in advance of what's to be. I'm living my life on the faith frequency. I'm living my life on the faith frequency. I'm living my life on the faith frequency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So please stand and join me. I'm feeling an affirmicize coming on, so let's do what I do. Repeat after me. Something magnificent is happening through me right now. It is happening through my mind, through my body, through my affairs. I think it. I believe it. I accept it. I rejoice in it. I name it good and very good. Thank you, God. And so it is. Let's sing.
This